Don't get me wrong, I'm glad you're alright, but the way you jumped up like that, you scared the shit out of me. I thought you were dead.
I've had so many near-death experiences since I met you. I really need to go make an offering to the three before they think me ungrateful.
Well, anyway, next time when I yell roll, roll.
I don't suppose we have anything to cook.
Ha! Now I know you're okay. Let's get out of here. Hey guys, Centurion here. I'm back in Mournhold to celebrate St. Patrick's Day with family. Bet you didn't know that was a holiday that Dark Elves celebrated. But hey, on St. Patrick's Day, everybody's Irish, right? Even the Dark Elves. Anyway, I'm glad you guys are here because I've got a new Nightblade build. Nightblade got a few changes in Update 41, and this build takes advantage of one of them. I was waiting until Update 41 went live because I needed to update my Nightblade character. But I actually wound up jumping on the test server the day before the update went live, and I rolled an Argonian Nightblade. I did some testing and recorded some video, but then when the update went live the next day, I just did the build on my character as I had originally intended. So you almost got an Argonian here. Sorry, Argonian lovers, wherever you are. I know you're out there somewhere. Alright, let's get on with today's build, Executioner.
What do you say we try some of the local fare? I'm famished.
Sounds good to me. Here on the character sheet, you can see the character is a Dark Elf. Dark Elves have bonuses to weapon and spell damage and max magicka and max stamina. They're a top stamina damage dealer race, and I'll put all the top stam races up on the screen. First tier is occupied by Dark Elf and Khajiit. The second tier is Orc and High Elf. And the third tier is Wood Elf, Nord, Argonian, and Imperial. The difference between the top and the bottom of this list is only a couple thousand points, and when you see what kind of damage the build does, you may say, so what? Play the race you're interested in. I'm using lava foot soup and salt rice as my food buff, and that gives me more stamina and stamina recovery. My Mundus Stone is the thief, which gives me more critical chance. Up top you can see I've got 20,000 points of health and 29,000 points of stamina. Stamina recovery is excellent at 1,600 points. Weapon damage is 4,700 and crit is at 53%. Those are unbuffed values. All three of those get buffed by potions of weapon power. For anybody new, I want to say that you have to level the alchemy skill line because you'll need to use the medicinal use passive. Medicinal use lets your potions last longer so you can use them one after another without any downtime. Penetration is at 3,600 and resistances are at 1,100. That's a little squishy, but I'm going pure damage dealer here. There's no expectation that I'm going to tank anything with this. Alright, let's move on to my favorite part, and that's the skills and the order I use them in. This is a static rotation for the most part, and that means I don't change the basic order. I just go through it and then start again at the beginning. I do my best to get in a light attack before every skill, but I don't lose any sleep over the ones that don't register. This is a 2-bar build, so bar swapping is involved here. There's also some changing up of the order as I'll be firing my spectral bow when it's ready, and I'll be using an execute skill right at the end. Now don't go anywhere if that sounds like too much for you. There's an easier version of the build which doesn't involve any rotation changes and it does almost just as much damage. This involves a simple change and I'll show you in a minute how to do that. Alright, I better stop wasting time and talk about the actual skills. The first thing I do is summon the Dark Shade. The Shade will slash at enemies nearby and will occasionally do a whirlwind attack affecting all enemies around it. Next I'll use Debilitate. This is a single target damage over time skill, or DOT as it's called. One thing you'll notice about the Nightblade is that it's focused mostly on single target damage. Both of the two skills I just mentioned are in the Nightblade's class skills kit. After that I use another single target skill, and that's Elemental Susceptibility from the Destruction Staff skill line. You may get tired of seeing this skill in my builds, but with the increased damage of status effects, it's not going away. Elemental Susceptibility lowers the target's armor by 5,000 points and applies the 3 elemental status effects every 7 seconds. And the best part about it, it's a free cast. That's right, you don't have to pay a thing to use this. I don't use that skill on trash unless there's a tougher enemy in the mix, and then I'll try to put it on them. The last skill I use on this bar is Blockade of Fire, which is another Destruction Staff skill. Blockade does fire damage to enemies in its area of effect, and it increases my weapon damage. I'll talk about how it does that in the gear section. I don't use this next skill, but even so, it may be the best skill on either bar. Leeching Strikes had a big change with this update, and I have to say, I like it. All I do is slot this on either bar, and anytime I do damage, I get 1,800 points of health back. Any damage will do the trick here, and I get the 1,800 points. And this can happen once per second. That's a lot of health. As long as I keep doing damage, this does a great job of keeping my health bar full. I've been running this in vet dungeons, and as long as there's a halfway decent healer, I'm fine. Alright, my last skill on this bar is Flawless Dawnbreaker from the Fighters Guild. I know what you're thinking. You think it's on the wrong bar, and most of the time, you'd be right. It's normal to put this on the main or damage bar to get a passive boost to damage. In this case, I'll take that passive buff on the back bar because I have a class skill on my front or main bar which is way better at boosting damage. Let's take a look at that bar. When I switch to my damage bar, the first skill I'm going to use is Ambush. This is a gap closer that I'll also use at point blank range. This is another Nightblade class skill. Whether I need to close distance or not, I'll use this because it inflicts minor vulnerability on the target, causing them to take 5% more damage. Now I'll use Barbed Trap, which is a great source of bleed damage, and it gives me the minor force buff, which increases my critical damage. Next I'll start in with my spammable skill, and that's Surprise Attack. This Nightblade skill always applies the Sundered status effect, reducing enemy armor by 3,000 points. Also, it gives me 100 more points of weapon damage. Additionally, attacking an enemy from the flank always results in a critical strike. I'll use Surprise Attack 10 times before I move on. They don't call them spammables for nothing. I'm definitely spamming that thing here. While I'm using Surprise Attack, if my next skill is ready, I'll use that instead. That skill is Merciless Resolve. Every light attack on either bar will increase my weapon damage by 60, and this will stack 5 times. When I have 5 stacks, I can then fire a Spectral Bow for massive damage. This takes priority over any other skill on this bar. When it's ready, I fire it. I'll even use that instead of the next skill. That skill is my Execute, which is Killer's Blade. I'll use Killer's Blade on low health enemies instead of Surprise Attack. That's any enemy below 30% health. And when Merciless Resolve is ready, I'll use that. Last but not least on this bar is my ultimate, Incapacitating Strike, which everybody just calls Incap. If I use this skill when it turns green, which is at 120 ultimate, my target will take 20% more damage from my attacks for the maximum 12 seconds. Now you know why I'm not using Dawnbreaker here. I want to be sure to use Incap right before I start in with my spammable attack to maximize the total damage I'm doing. Before I show you this in action, I want to talk about the simpler version of the build. In the simplified and more bulletproof version, I remove Killer's Blade from my main bar and replace it with the Assault skill Heal, Resolving Vigor. I'll also take the Relentless Focus morph instead of Merciless Resolve. This gives me more weapon damage in my stacks. And when my Spectral Bow is ready, I don't fire it. I keep my weapon damage stacks at the maximum. Now I could keep Merciless Resolve if I wanted, so I could change my setup on the fly. This wouldn't give me as much weapon damage as Relentless Focus, but would be basically the same. Of course, if I have an armory assistant, I can switch between morphs while I'm in the field. That's even better. This allows me to play the max damage version until I reach a point where I need to switch. Okay, let's see the max damage version in action. I drink a potion, summon the shade, debilitate, elemental susceptibility, blockade, then bar swap. Ambush, trap, incap, I fire my Spectral Bow and then start spamming Surprise Attack. The Zon Monster Helm is doing its thing. From here on out, I'll fire the Spectral Bow when it's ready and I'm on this bar. Notice that my health bar keeps filling itself back up. That's Leeching Strikes in action. No way this chump can do enough damage to kill me. A few shots with Killer's Blade and he's done. 50,000 points of damage per second, and with that you can go anywhere you want to go in the game. Surprise Attack led the way with 20% of the overall damage. The burning status effect is strong here, and that's helped out by the Zon Monster Helm. Usually Merciless Resolve is higher up, but I was even sloppier than normal with my light attacks, so I didn't get as many Spectral Bow procs as I should have. It may seem like I got a little lucky on my crits here, but you have to remember that Surprise Attack is an automatic crit when it comes from the flank, and there were a few of those. And crit is very high with this setup, so likely I'm going to see many times where things will crit 100% of the time. This isn't a status effect heavy setup. You can see Sunder down near the bottom, but things like Hemorrhaging fell completely off the chart. Alright, let's look at the gear. I have on the Call of the Forest Wraith, and that's a 5-piece craftable set. You'll need to own the Fire Song DLC to make this yourself, or someone else can go there and make it for you. Forest Wraith gives a huge crit bonus to your class skills, and if you remember, my damage bar was all class skills except for one. I'm using 2 daggers here, and my main hand is Nirnhoned and the offhand is charged. No double charged here. I don't have enough going on with status effects to lean into that. On my back bar I have the Maelstrom Inferno staff, and that comes from the arena of the same name. If you don't have that, no worries, just run Forest Wraith here. My staff is in the Infused trait and has a weapon damage glyph, and that works in conjunction with my Blockade of Fire skill to give me more weapon damage. As long as Blockade is damaging an enemy, I can get that buff even after swapping bars. I'm wearing the Zon monster helm, and that can be a little difficult to get. The Scalecaller Peak dungeon can be hard in veteran mode. Run what you have here. Stormfist or Iceheart will work great. The main thing about Zon to me is it really cranks up the burning status effect. The other 5-piece set I'm wearing is Order's Wrath. Order's Wrath is a crafted set from the High Isle and is the strongest crafted set in the game. So that's 2 crafted sets, and the arena weapon and monster helm are up to you depending on where you're at in the game and what you have access to. The jewelry traits here should be Bloodthirsty, and the enchantments are weapon damage. I actually switched them to spell damage after this for more magicka recovery because the build has more than enough stamina recovery. And that's really the only difference between magicka and weapon damage glyphs is which recovery they give you. I have on all medium armor here. If you want to do it right, make one of the minor pieces light armor, and then the Undaunted Metal passive gives you more max stats. Body pieces all have the Divine's trait, and that's the great thing about crafted gear. All the traits are right from the get-go. No farming or transmuting anything. Really, the only farming you have to do here is for a halfway decent monster helm. Okay, let's take a quick look at champion points and wrap things up. The blue champion points are Fighting Finesse, Deadly Aim, Thaumaturge, and Wrathful Strikes, and you guys are smart and creative people, and you can figure out the rest. But if you have any questions, ask me in the comments section.
Are we waiting for someone? Something? Just because?
I'm almost finished, then we can get on with the St. Patrick's Day festivities. Well guys, that's all I have for you on this one. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, be sure to crush that like button, and if you're not subscribed but you want to see more stuff like this, please subscribe to the channel. No fashion show at the end because I'm wearing the skin you get for completing the 2 new dungeons on Veteran. This skin is called Bloodmarks of Malakath, and you'll have to beat both Bedlam Vale and Oathsworn Pit on Veteran difficulty if you want to walk around looking like this. I did throw in a short video of the build and Veteran Dungeon action at the end, and I'm running the full-on damage version of the build with no burst heal. If you can put up with me forgetting which bar I'm on sometimes and other screw-ups, you can enjoy that. Thanks again for watching. Have a great day and enjoy your adventures in Tamriel.